It would be amazing if the president would actually come down and would actually witness those instead of doing a photo op for 4 hours in El Paso, where at the time we weren't under a lot of pressure in that particular area. We've got to take a holistic approach and say what's necessary to get this job done. How can we protect the American people? Because that's what it all comes back to.
Yeah, that was National Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd with me yesterday on this program discussing President Biden's crisis at the southern border. Meanwhile, Texas is proposing 2 new bills that would transfer control of the border enforcement from the federal government to the state of Texas. Joining me now is Texas State Representative Matt Schaefer. Matt, thanks very much for being here. You authored one of these bills. Tell us more about it. And would it be something that the federal government would actually allow?
Well, we are in the midst of a historic border crisis. And so a historic border crisis calls for historic legislation. This bill would, for the first time in modern history from any state, would invoke authority under Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution, which is essentially a self-defense provision of the Constitution, which allows states to defend themselves when they are in imminent danger. And so we believe that we do have the constitutional authority to defend the state of Texas, and that's exactly what we intend to do.
How will you do that? The Texas Department of Safety released 2 new videos of Louisiana men arrested for human smuggling after troopers found 6 illegal immigrants in the car. I know U.S. authorities have barricaded the Paso del Norte port of entry after mass migrant protests erupted on the Mexican side of the bridge. Matt, assess what's going on the ground and how Texas can lead in this area.
We have tens of thousands of people pouring across the river every week and countless amounts of fentanyl, which, as you know, is killing Texans and Americans at an alarming rate. But we intend to put stronger security measures in place on the river, along the river, and above the river, to include stopping people from crossing the river, and if they do cross illegally, returning them to the Mexican side with instructions to go to the port of entry where they can make a legal claim to come into the United States.
Well, I mean, why isn't the Department of Homeland Security doing this? I mean, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas traveling to Panama now to discuss what he called serious humanitarian situation in the Darien Gap and migration issues, Matt. He went to Panama. He's not talking about the United States and the impact there.
One, I believe that the Democrat Party at the national level believes that allowing these people to come across will ultimately lead to more Democrat voters. And secondly, I think the far left-wing side of the Democrat Party is in Joe Biden's ear and has convinced him that this is the best policy for the United States. But I can tell you that there's some bipartisan support along our Texas border for stronger border security measures.
And what specific measures do you believe will actually have an impact at the border? Because you're talking about 7 million people having crossed illegally into the United States on Joe Biden's watch. That doesn't even include the gotaways.
It's simple. You have to stop people from crossing illegally in between the ports of entry. You have to stop them from crossing the river illegally. And if they do, they have to be returned. Until the message goes out to Central America and Latin America and Mexico that the border cannot be crossed illegally, this will not stop. And if we're constantly having our law enforcement officers just processing paperwork for people, they cannot adequately go after the fentanyl that is killing so many Americans.
Well, that's a good point, because the fentanyl has already killed at least 100,000 Americans, and the underlying components are coming from China. Tell me about getting your arms around the fentanyl problem.
Well, the migrants are just merchants to the cartels. And so the cartels are making billions of dollars annually off pushing people through the river. And while they're pushing people across the river, that ties up all of our law enforcement resources to handle the influx of people. And many of our local communities are simply being overrun. So you have to stop people from crossing illegally, to free up your law enforcement officers to work along the river, to work out with the brush teams, to examine more cars and trucks that are coming through the ports of entry. You can't get at the fentanyl crisis unless you stop the crisis of mass numbers of people crossing illegally.
And do you think the administration understands this? Why isn't it doing it?
When you listen to them talk in Washington, it's as if their head is completely in the sand and they don't know what's going on. They're lying about what's happening. But when you talk to Border Patrol officials at the local level, they know full well what is happening. So it really is a matter of national security.
Of course. Of course it's national security. It's the border of America. Matt, good to see you. Thanks very much.